The Owl Keeper's Apprentice. Lena traced her fingers over the worn edges of the wooden talisman, feeling its ancient power thrum beneath her touch. The stylized owl etched into its surface stared back at her with knowing eyes, surrounded by mysterious symbols and markings. It had been her grandmother's most prized possession, passed down through generations of women in their family. Now, on Lena's 16th birthday, it was finally hers. "Remember, child," her grandmother had told her, pressing the talisman into Lena's palm, "with great power comes great responsibility. Guard it well, and it will guard you in return." Those were the last words her grandmother spoke before passing away in her sleep, that very night. Now, 2 weeks later, Lena still felt the ache of loss mingled with the weight of her new, solemn duty. The responsibility of guarding the talisman and the village was now hers. She sighed, tucking the talisman beneath her shirt, as she made her way through the cobblestone streets of Raven's Hollow. The quaint village was nestled in a valley surrounded by dense, mist-shrouded forests. It was steeped in folklore and whispered legends of cunning witches, mischievous fae, and creatures that lurked in shadow, adding an air of mystery to the village. Lena had always been fascinated by such tales, but now they took on new meaning. What secrets had her grandmother kept? What legacy now rested on her shoulders? Lost in thought, she barely noticed when she collided with someone rounding the corner. "Watch where you're going," snapped an irritable voice. Lena looked up to see Madame Thornwood, the village's resident fortune-teller and purveyor of charms. The older woman's rheumy eyes narrowed as they settled on Lena. "Ah, it's you," she said, her tone softening slightly. "My condolences about your grandmother, child. She was a remarkable woman." "Thank you," Lena murmured. Madame Thornwood leaned in close, her gnarled hand grasping Lena's arm. "You have it now, don't you?" she whispered urgently. "The owl talisman?" Lena jerked back, startled. I don't know what you mean." The fortune-teller's eyes glittered. "Oh, I think you do. Listen carefully, girl. Dark forces are stirring in the forest. Ancient bargains are coming due. You must be prepared." Before Lena could respond, Madame Thornwood pressed a small pouch into her hand. "Burn these herbs at midnight. They will offer protection and clarity. And remember, the owl sees what others cannot. Trust in its wisdom." With that cryptic warning, she hobbled away, leaving Lena bewildered in the street. She opened the pouch, inhaling the spicy scent of dried herbs. What had the older woman meant? What bargains? What dark forces? Lena crept out to the forest's edge that night, as the village slept. The full moon hung low and heavy in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground. With trembling hands, she scattered the herbs in a circle and set them alight. As the smoke curled upward, carrying the heady aroma of sage and rosemary, Lena clutched the talisman and whispered, "Show me what I need to see." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a haunting hoot echoed through the trees. Lena gasped, as a massive owl with gleaming golden eyes swooped to land before her. But this was no ordinary bird. Its feathers shimmered with an otherworldly light, and ancient symbols like those on the talisman were etched into its wings. "Who seeks the wisdom of the owl?" it asked in a voice like rustling leaves. Lena swallowed hard. "I do," she managed to say. "My name is Lena, and I inherited this talisman from my grandmother. Please, what's happening? What do I need to know?" The owl's head swiveled, regarding her with an unblinking stare. "You stand at a crossroads, young one. For centuries, your ancestors have been guardians of the veil between worlds. Now that duty falls to you." It spread its wings wide, and Lena was soaring above the forest. Far below, she saw pinpricks of eerie light weaving between the trees, will-o'-the-wisps leading unwary travelers astray. In a moonlit clearing, fairy rings bloomed with impossible flowers. Deep in the heart of the wood, an ancient stone circle thrummed with barely contained power. Long ago, the owl continued, a pact was struck between the mortal realm and the realm of fairy. Your kind would be granted certain magics, in exchange for maintaining the balance between worlds. But some would upset that balance for their gain. The vision shifted, showing a cloaked figure standing before the stone circle. Dark energy crackled around them as they began to chant in an eldritch tongue. The air seemed to fracture, a yawning void opening between the standing stones. The barrier grows thin, the owl warned urgently. If it is breached, chaos will reign. You must stop this from coming to pass. The urgency in its voice was palpable, heightening the sense of impending danger. With a jolt, Lena found herself in her body at the forest's edge. The owl regarded her solemnly. But how? Lena asked, her mind reeling. I don't know the first thing about magic or guarding veils between worlds. The knowledge lies within you, passed down through your bloodline. Trust in the talisman and yourself. Seek out allies who can aid you on your quest. Time grows short. You have until the next full moon to prevent catastrophe. With those parting words, the owl spread its wings and took flight, quickly vanishing into the night sky. Lena stood rooted to the spot, her heart pounding. It was too much to take in. How could she possibly live up to such a monumental task? But as the first rays of dawn began to streak the sky, Lena squared her shoulders with determination. She might not feel ready, but she was the owl keeper now, and would not let her grandmother or the world down. The next few weeks passed in a blur, as Lena threw herself into preparation. She pored over her grandmother's old journals, deciphering cryptic notes about ley lines and moon phases. She gathered herbs and crystals, practicing simple spells until her fingers tingled with latent energy. But most importantly, she sought out allies. Finn was the woodcutter's son, whose family had long served as forest wardens. His practical knowledge and steady presence were a welcome counterpoint to Lena's unraveling arcane mysteries. To her surprise, she found an unlikely mentor in Madame Thornwood. Once Lena got past her gruff exterior, the prickly fortune-teller was a fountain of wisdom. Under her tutelage, Lena's innate magical talents began to blossom. Yet even as Lena grew in confidence and ability, signs of trouble multiplied. Livestock went missing from outlying farms, and children spoke of shadowy figures glimpsed between the trees. Despite the summer heat, a bone-deep chill settled over the village. Finally, the night of the full moon arrived. As darkness fell, Lena and Finn made their way deep into the forest, following the pull of the talisman. Madame Thornwood remained behind to guard the village, armed with wards and protections. An unnatural mist clung to the forest floor, muffling their footsteps. Eerie whispers seemed to flit between the trees. More than once, Lena caught flashes of movement in her peripheral vision, only to find nothing when she turned to look. At last they reached the ancient stone circle. The cloaked figure from Lena's vision stood at its center, arms raised as they chanted. The air itself seemed to warp and twist around them. "We have to stop the ritual," Lena whispered urgently. Finn nodded, readying his bow. But before they could act, tendrils of shadow lashed out, wrapping around their ankles. Lena yelped as she was dragged into the circle, Finn close behind. The cloaked figure turned, lowering its hood to reveal an almost human face, save for the pitch-black eyes and two sharp teeth. "So the Owl Keeper's heir seeks to interfere," it said in a voice like grinding stone. "How quaint. Your ancestors have been thorns in my side for far too long, little one. I will tear the veil tonight, and take what is rightfully mine." It raised a gnarled staff, dark energy crackling along its length. Lena struggled against her shadowy bonds, panic rising in her throat. This was it. She had failed before she'd even begun. But then she felt the talisman grow warm against her skin. A sense of calm washed over her as she heard her grandmother's voice echoing, "Remember who you are, Lena. You are stronger than you know." Taking a deep breath, Lena closed her eyes and reached for the wellspring of power within herself. She felt it surge through her veins like liquid starlight. The shadows recoiled as she began to glow with an inner radiance. "No," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "I won't let you destroy everything my family has worked to protect. This ends now." She thrust her hand forward, channeling pure light through the talisman. It lanced out, shattering the creature's staff and sending it reeling backwards. "Finn now!" Lena shouted. The boy released an arrow that streaked through the air, its tip gleaming with blessed silver. It struck true, embedding itself in the creature's chest. The arrow let out an unearthly shriek, as cracks of light spread across its form. "This isn't over," it snarled. "Others will come. The barrier will fall. Then we'll be waiting," Lena replied firmly. With a final howl of rage, the creature exploded into wisps of shadow that quickly dissipated on the wind. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and Lena sagged with relief. "We did it," Finn said, sounding awed. "Yeah," Lena agreed, managing a tired smile. "We did." As they returned to the village, Lena knew this was only the beginning. There would be other threats and other battles to face. But she was no longer afraid. She had found her purpose, and would face whatever came with courage and determination. The talisman hummed contentedly against her skin, a reminder of the legacy she now bore. Lena smiled, feeling truly at peace for the first time since her grandmother's passing. Whatever the future held, she was ready to face it, as the Owl Keeper, protector of Raven's Hollow, and guardian of the Veil Between Worlds.